like blah, blah, blah. Pay me what you want it. Don't act like you forgot. Bitch better have my money. Bitch better have my money. Pay me what you want it. Bitch better have my. Bitch better have my.
KBLA Talk 1580. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. What is the it? The it is whatever's on your mind, but also reparation. And you know, when we're on YouTube, KBLA 1580, when we swap hours, we swap to a different chat. So this time I captured a few of the things that you said last hour so we could take a little bit of time to unpack them right now. And I think, you know, really, I want to say that the goal of this conversation is for all of us to get a little smarter about what's going on, what people are doing to advance the cause of reparations, what philosophies folks have, the different kinds of actions and organizations that you could get involved with, the arguments that you could be making when we have so many people who are naysayers in the space regarding any kind of progress on reparations. And I think that you play a role in that. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580 is the number to call. So I'm not really sure that I'm clear. Gregory Calloway's in here with a lot of all caps saying that we're broke as a group and the black ownership is an absolute myth. I don't know what that means. I feel like, is that a critique of capitalism, or is it the idea that when we own something, we're low mortgage, we owe taxes, we might not own the land that business is on? Or are you talking on some philosophical level? Because I'm a home owner, and although I still owe on my mortgage, there is definitely a difference between owning and renting. There are, you know, advantages that come with it. And I still feel like, even though someone else said earlier in the chat, it might have been you, Gregory, I'm not sure, because I don't have that chat still open, that land was the currency of that time of 1865. And so it made more sense to deal in land then. And although I just played Rihanna, and I do think reparations should include monetary compensation, land is still the currency. I mean, land, you know, money devalues quickly, especially in the economy that we're in right now, whereas land tends to, you know, retain its value, at least and grow in value, and at least you have it. You can actually live on it. You can plant a thing on it. And so I still think land, especially the reclamation of land that has been seized through eminent domain, stolen, people have been pushed off of it, is an important part of the process. That's why, one of the reasons why I was so excited about the Bruce's Beach victory. Even though I hear people saying that because the Bruce family decided to sell that land back to the county, that means that it wasn't a victory after all. But I don't see how that can be true, because that family is, you know, $20 million richer than they were. They went from a regular struggling working class family to a family with a bunch of millionaires in it, due to the activism of people like of Where Is My Land, people like that, due to the activism of, you know, Kevon Ward and those folks, due to the courage. And it's weird because we don't put courage and lawmakers together too often, but I think it was courageous on the part of Supervisor Holly J. Mitchell, on the part of Supervisor Janice Hahn, Stephen Bradford, and others. So even if they don't retain that land, and we don't know what's happening in their lives, that is still a win. That's $20 million of generational wealth transferred to a family. And you can say, well, you know, that land would have gone up in price. They would have had even more wealth. You can say, well, they're going to squander it. those are the same arguments that I hear about the overall concept of reparations, that we will simply squander it, so therefore we don't deserve it. Well, I just don't think that's a good argument. If you owe me money, you have to pay it to me. You don't get to judge whether I am qualified to have what is mine. And even if if the Bruce family squanders that $20 million, which it's spread out among different family members, so I doubt one person would squander it all. But even if they did, they got to have whatever experience that was of squandering the $20 million, which I assume would be kind of fun, that their ancestors worked for. So I think that's still a win, and we should see it as a win. And the idea of land, money, actual assets, right, deliverables, is important. Yes, legislation is important, and it transcends arguments over who should benefit, which is a plus, right? If we can abolish enslavement, for example, in our prison system, forced labor and low or no wage work inside the prison industrial complex, number one, that takes away incentives that some of these carceral institutions have to keep people there so that they can have free labor. Number two, it benefits everyone Black, regardless of where they're from, everyone BIPOC. I know some of y'all hate that term. People of color, y'all don't like that one either, but it is what it is. And so there is a certain built-in fairness in the fact that when we change the laws of this country and the practices and policies of this country that are unfair, racist, that support white supremacy, that helps everyone on the food chain. Didn't have time to get into this with Khalif Alexander, but I think it's particularly interesting that this movie Origin, which is based on Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste, is coming out right now. Not just because we are confronted with issues of race, caste, and hierarchy because of the tragedy of Gaza, the rising hate crimes here, and the polarization of our nation because of the MAGA movement, but also at a time when reparations is picking up steam. Because, and I saw Ava DuVernay last night on MSNBC, and it was a great interview. Actually helped me understand some of what she was trying to do with the film. I saw it, and I feel like it does really personalize and make accessible important parts of our history, important concepts in history. But this tendency to try to minimize the impact of race on the oppression or stratification or discriminatory policies against Black people is problematic in some ways. And I find it interesting. Keep your eye on this. When people talk about caste, especially people that aren't Black, they get really happy because, and there's nothing wrong with being really happy about having a way out of racism, but it reminds me of the old sort of liberal lines, which are, we're all human, doesn't matter for Black, white, green, or yellow. They always say green for some reason. We're all human underneath, and we all bleed red, and that's true, and I'm not trying to mock that. Well, maybe I was, but I think there's a trap in that, which is the same trap that we find in the so-called post-racial rhetoric, right? Because it's just not the truth of how our country functions. It's the same or similar to, we're in a post-racial, we're colorblind. I don't see color. Ibram X. Kendi does a really great job in breaking down why that's a problematic statement. Because number one, you do see color. Okay, you do. Even if you're colorblind with your eyes, you see color as far as the stratification and privilege system of this country and really global white supremacy. Okay, There's that. And then the other problem with it is by saying it, you're in denial about the ways in which you are propagating, the ways in which you are continuing, bolstering, and really entrenching racism, white supremacy, and what Isabel Wilkerson calls the caste system. She compares racism in America to the treatment of the Dalit people, which were formerly known as untouchables in India, as well as the Jews in Nazi Germany. And the overlap in philosophy, policy, the fact that those Nazis studied the Jim Crow laws of America, not just the laws, the methodologies for demeaning and dehumanizing another race, as well as taking away their rights. All of that, I think, is eye-opening, and people need to know it, and some folks have called it life-changing. But who was it? Somebody was talking to me about how, maybe it was Khalif Alexander, talking about how when you look at a country like Cuba, where they say they're post-racial, and they do not track any data pertaining to race. They say, we had a revolution, we're all good now. But I think even, although in many ways I'm a supporter of Cuba, I think that's BS. You do see race. And if you don't track it, then how do you know that progress is being made? Well, you don't. And I haven't seen a black president in Cuba. I haven't seen high-ranking black officials there. Of course, I haven't walked around. But the top echelons, the ones we see on TV, are not black. So if you're saying you're post-racial, then prove it. Show me. I want to see the data. And anytime we pivot into this sort of, we're all human, we all love each other, we all share the same struggles. I'm not saying it's not true. It is true. But that can become a way of star washing, starry-eyed washing the reality of what's going on the ground. And so where does that leave us? I think not necessarily, I definitely am recommending the movie. I think you should go see it. And if you have seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. Dazzling Diamonds Dane Company says lineage shouldn't be the only access to reparations, that all African Americans should receive reparations. Again, I challenging you. I don't know Dazzling Diamonds Dane Company. If you want to call in, 800-920-1580. But again, you get back to the same consistent issue that people are struggling with, which is, how do you define African Americans? If you came last week from Senegal, are you an African American? Well, you're not a citizen yet, presumably. Do you become an African American when you're a citizen? You're saying all black people in America, regardless of their citizenship status. How far back do you have to go? These are the things that the California Task Force had to wrestle with. And as Khalif alluded to, and folks in the chat have alluded to also, this is a serious sticking point for folks. And that's why he called it a loss for Pan-Africans or a race-based advocates. I called it a compromise, however you want to look at it. The conversation and the work that's been done in this area by the California Task Force is remarkable and important. And I think it would be really helpful if we can, whether it's a loss or a compromise, whatever it is, tease that out so we can skip over having the same fights in every state. And again, at the federal level, whatever that's going to be, whether it's going to be an executive order, the passage of H.R. 40, which would authorize a reparations study, or whether it's going to be somebody, Biden, Trump, maybe, Kamala Harris. Why do y'all hate on Kamala so much? I know why, but I think you don't know. I think you know, but you don't know why you're really, really doing it. But whatever. Whoever does it, President Gavin Newsom, President Nikki Haley, whoever does it, going straight to a deal, going straight to pushing whatever you can by executive action, executive order, and then pressuring the Congress into doing something. All of the above. All of the above. Both and. State, city, county, federal, international. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyaudio.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyaudio.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
So, does anyone else's family and home need a little winter pick-me-up? If so, you've got to go to Kohl's right now. I just saved big during their winter event. I got storage bins for just $15.99 that are so needed around the house. Then I got my kids new winter coats for 50% off, and my husband some stylish boots for $29.99. Plus, because I earned Kohl's Cash on it all, I can't wait to treat myself next time. Thank you, Kohl's. Select styles. Some exclusions apply. Offers valid through January 28th. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
We're for Washington. We love Febrez's new scent. Refresh and energize.
So much we made a song about it.
I can't escape this feeling inside. Refresh and energize. It's a mood, it's a vibe. Breathing for the first time. So free, so alive. Breathe happy for breeze. Smells like paradise. Breathe happy for breeze. La 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 la.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, indeed. I do appreciate you. 800-920-1580, the number to call wherever you might be. Crazy news. The UN court denied South Africa's request to order an immediate ceasefire by Israel in the Gaza on Friday. They said that Israel needs to do all it can to prevent death. That sounds like exactly what Joe Biden said to Israel. Try to tamp down those civilian deaths. And that's just something to say, because you can't do the kind of bombing campaign that's happening on Gaza and prevent civilian deaths. That's just silly. It's silly if you think about it, if you look at what's happening there. But they said that that's all they're going to say for now, is just do your best not to kill everybody. And they asked Israel to do all it can to prevent death, destruction, and genocide. Well, it's a little late on the destruction and death part. And South Africa had taken them all the way to the UN court, saying that they were accusing Israel of genocide and apartheid, which South Africa knows a thing or two about. But that panel of 17 judges, they didn't throw out the case, but they ordered what they're calling provisional measures, which means a nothing, because Israel already said even if they were ordered to do a ceasefire, they would not comply. Do you think they're going to comply with something softer than a mandated ceasefire if they've already said they won't listen to the UN top court, even if they were ordered to stand down? Yeah, so that disappointing. It doesn't take away, though, the awareness of the world that was raised by South Africa. And this is an interim decision because the final decision is going to take years to go through the court, and that everybody could be dead by then. South Africa asked immediate military suspension of operations. They also asked Israel to take reasonable measures to prevent genocide, to allow more aid in. The court agrees with that, but doesn't mandate a ceasefire. That's okay. So basically, they voted that they believe in the Easter Bunny, pretty much. The first person ever to be executed using nitrogen gas lost their life on yesterday, as the country looks at rebooting its means of killing people, executing people. It's something I'm against. Apparently, he was struggling and trying to breathe for 22 minutes, struggling for his life, according to a pastor who witnessed that execution. This is in Atmore, Alabama. His name is Kenneth Eugene Smith. He was convicted in 1988 of a murder for hire, and I think 22 minutes of torture before someone goes down really outlines all the reasons why the death penalty is inhumane. Dexter King, the youngest son of Martin Luther King Jr., who died of prostate cancer, recently has been cremated according to his wishes, but there will still be a funeral in Atlanta, a memorial service there. Details of that to come. It's really a tragic situation. He was battling prostate cancer for 3 years, and now the family is figuring out how to keep the legacy, keep their organization going. Eric Tidwell, who's the general counsel for the King estate, is going to take on the day-to-day operations of the organization, which is meant to protect the intellectual property, the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. But Bernice King, who's the CEO of the King Center, said that they will soon announce a new board chairman to take over the position of Dexter King. Just overwhelming that the tribulations that family has had to endure since the murder of their father, Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, we've only got a minute and a half till news and traffic, so we're going to get Molly Bell in 2 acts. Good morning, Molly Bell, straight out of Compton.
Reparations in memory of our ancestors. So I got to finish in a minute and a half, or?
No, you have part 1 is a minute and a half, and part 2 is after.
Oh. All right. Dominique, I have to say that this week has been a very mixed week. You brought in you brought in some guests that had me to rethink some things, and that little young girl Vasquez.
Yeah.
She's running for the 10th district, and I liked her. I really did, and I just wondered, after she knew all that the Latinos did and said about that were on city council, how they boycotted, because that's not my city. I'm not in the L.A. I'm in Compton. And what all that they did, why didn't they, I don't know, was she uncomfortable? Because she seemed, I liked her. I liked her answers and everything else. And then I think you did ask her about being a Latino taking over a black district. How did you feel about her answer?
Da-na-na-na. I'll share that after news, traffic, and sports, and we'll get part 2 of Molly Bell. All that straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The FAA says Boeing can once again fly its 737 MAX 9 planes. The statement comes after the agency completed its Boeing safety review following the in-flight blowout of a door plug on an Alaska Airlines flight earlier this month. The FAA accompanied that ruling with a warning saying the incident must never happen again. A trial date has been set for a lawsuit filed by the family of Tyree Nichols against the city of Memphis, Tennessee. Rovon Wells, Nichols' mother, filed a $550 million civil lawsuit after her son was beaten by Memphis police officers and died. A trial has been set for January 27th of 2025. Wells is being represented by African-American attorney Ben Crump. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers scored a season-high 141 points last night in their win over Chicago. LeBron led the Lakers with 25 points and 12 assists. Before the game, LeBron found out that he will be the first player in NBA history to appear in 20 All-Star games. We're about to find out how good the Clippers really are. The Clippers begin a 7-game Eastern road trip tonight in Toronto. The Clippers are 14 games over 500 and have the third best record in the Western Conference. Congratulations to Raheem Morris, the Rams defensive coordinator the past 3 seasons. The Atlanta Falcons hired Morris as their new head coach. There are now 6 black head coaches in the NFL. 2 openings are still on the board, Seattle and Magic Johnson's Washington Commanders. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Got me a damn girl on my team.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe we have the best tag team in morning radio. Dominique DiPrima and Tavis Smiley. As the first black woman in Los Angeles to anchor a morning drive talk radio show, Dominique covers local politics like a blanket. Weekday mornings from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., Dominique passes the baton to Tavis Smiley, who talks to everybody about everything every day until 12 noon. KBLA's dynamic duo, Dominique and Tavis. It's no wonder the LA Civil Rights Department is honoring Dominique DiPrima this year at its Tell Our Story honoring black journalist leaders and storytellers event, Thursday, February 8th. Or that the John M. Langston Bar Association of Los Angeles is honoring Tavis Smiley at its 47th Annual Installation and Scholarship Awards Gala with its Community Impact Award on February 10th. We couldn't be more proud of Dominique and Tavis, who make black history every day, not just in February. If you're missing Dominique and Tavis weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Holla, yeah.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. We aim to be a thermostat, transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
City of Los Angeles landlords that own rent-controlled properties, starting February 1st, you'll be able to increase rents by 4% for your rent-controlled properties. An extra 1% per utility, up to 6%, can be added only if you pay the entire gas and electric bill. And don't forget to give your tenant an advance 30-day written notice for rent increases of less than 10%. It is state law. Learn more about the rent increase at housing.lacity.org. That's housing.lacity.org.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth.
Hello, Joe. You're up. Welcome.
We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
Molly Bell called me at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580, and you can too. Molly Bell was kind of summarizing the week that passed and the conversation with Aura Vasquez. It's going to be confusing on the ballot, by the way, because you got Aura Vasquez running for Council District 10, the seat that is currently occupied by a black woman, Heather Hutt, and there's a bunch of other folks running as well. And then and for the Assembly, you have Dulce Vasquez, who we'll talk to next week. They both have the last name Vasquez, but they're completely different people. Aura Vasquez is a Colombian immigrant who identifies as Afro-Latina. And you're asking me what I think of her. She seemed perfectly nice, well-rounded when it comes to environmental justice. For me, the question is, well, first of all, it's hard because you don't have a voting track record. You have a person that tells you what they're going to do, but they've never been in elected office. So you have to guess based on their answers and based on their work in the community. And then the other thing is for me, and elephant in the room, meet Dominique. Dominique, meet the elephant in the room. She's Latina, even though she identifies as Afro-Latina. When I look at her, I don't see black. And even though she seems to be an ally and an Afro-Latina by her own identification, I would have trouble replacing a sitting African-American with any Latino elected unless that sitting African-American was problematic from a policy standpoint, i.e. a Clarence Thomas. You know what I mean? I would take... Julian Castro over Clarence Thomas 8 days out of the week, et cetera, et cetera. So, of course, policy over party, policy over race. But in this case where you have a competent sitting black woman, why would you vote out why would you vote her out for an untested person who's not black? Or who doesn't appear to be black. She identifies as black, so I can't say a person who's not black.
Okay, that was a good answer because I did not. Like I said, I can't vote, but I'm just saying that as I listened to her, I'm just saying that I remember when we as a people got our first black, and then. For me, and I've always apologized for my vote for Clarence Thomas, but back in the day, we were so glad. But anyway, that's all on that one. I also wanted to say, is with Netanyahu, sometimes we as a people, as a country, gotta decide, find a way that we could make allies and friends with a person, but Netanyahu is no better than Trump. In fact, he's just like Trump. He's about ready to go to. He's on trial in his own country, and so I believe that all this was a setup. All this was planned between Gaza and Israel. And so with Netanyahu, I just think that we need to just, I think Biden and our Congress need to just say, well, we're your friend, your partner, but we just can't stay this way. And the other one, we didn't talk that much about Uvalde, the report that came out from that. And Dr. Molina, thank you. I got a lot of calls about that because a lot of people were listening. Thank you for bringing that up and letting Dr. Molina explain why Black Lives Matter, because just like we have a lot of reparation groups, there are a lot of Black Lives Matter. And some of them, just from what we heard that happened with Dr. Molina, some of them just aren't right. And so we've got to look in that. And here's my final question. How come if Trump says that he's going to be a dictator the first day and he's going to do retribution on all the people, do you think it would be right if we were to tell Biden, since you're president now, why don't you do all the stuff that Trump said he want to do later on? Get rid of everybody, all the people that are wronged and did everything wrong, and then maybe they can see how crazy that seems. Because I forgot who said it, but somebody said we have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just common interest. And I just remember that from back in the day. And Miles, thank you for the word intentional. I like the way that he used that the other day in talking to you. Dominique, you've had a great show, and this week was just simply outstanding. Love Carrie Harper and everyone else. Listen, all you prayer warriors out there, you know what you've got to do. You've got to keep fasting. You've got to keep praying because the struggle continues, but always to God be the glory. Thank you, Dominique.
Thank you, Molly Bell. A lot of really great and interesting points. So this is just the beginning of us bringing every elected official that is running for office that we can convince to get on these airwaves to you so that you can figure out, discern for yourself. And if you missed the conversation with Aura Vasquez, if you missed the conversation with John McKinney or Jeff Chemerinsky, who are running for district attorney, they are available on our app, which is free at the App Store, the Google Play Store. You can also get them on the KBLA 1580 website or wherever else you find pods, because this is probably the easiest way to figure out who you're going to vote for. Listen to what they have to say. And I will do my best to be fair and ask the hard questions as well as those that help us to get to know people a little better. And Molly Bell was referring to Black Lives Matter, the hit piece that happened in a far right-wing rag from the East Coast yesterday that really targeted Dr. Melina Abdullah. That campaign, I call it a campaign because this organization called the Global Network Foundation, the BLM Global Network Foundation, which was originally set up by Patrisse Cullors to create a safe holding spot for all the money that people were donating during the height of the marching of Black Lives Matter, which added up to close to $100 million. When Patrisse was bullied by the right-wing media into stepping down, the organization was left somewhat vulnerable in that transition. The board members that she intended to put in place to steer that money to the 33 chapters and to support the boots on the ground work were pushed out by a greedy consultant who was a sole board member for some time. Then he got a couple of his cronies to be on the board with him, his high school friend and another person, and they actually seized control through a hostile takeover of all of that money and the social media platforms, leaving the activists that do the work every day without access to the millions of followers they had and without the dollars to do the things that they had planned to do. Not only that, they bought a mansion in North Hollywood. Now they're trying to blame it on blame the purchase of that mansion on Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which is the real boots on the ground activist, which contains all 33 chapters. But the problem with that is, ask who owns that house now. It's the Global Network Foundation. So if Grassroots bought it, why does the Global Network Foundation own it? They say, oh, well, they owned it while they were in control. But if you look at the governance, Grassroots was never in control of GNF, of the foundation where their dollars were. Patrice created it to hold that money, but when she stepped down from the organization under extreme mental health duress based on the attacks on her in the media and in real life, death threats and such, when she stepped down from that organization, it was left vulnerable because apparently the transition plan was not ironclad. And this guy, Shalomia Bowers, seized control of it. He is in control of that money. And by their own reporting, Global Network Foundation, their own reporting, their nonprofit disclosures, financial statements, show that he paid himself over $2 million in 2020. And so that's why they say self-dealing. A Republican judge shut down the BLM Grassroots lawsuit against those guys, not on the merits of the case, but through an anti-SLAPP motion where GNF alleged that Black Lives Matter Grassroots was violating their free speech by not letting them raise money using the good name of Black Lives Matter. So that conversation is important. It is very confusing. And it's so interesting because if you look back at the history of these right-wing attacks on the Black Lives Matter movement, you will see that they were confused at first, too. They were attacking the Global Network Foundation and Black Lives Matter Grassroots, but now they've got it figured out. They've got it figured out that they need to support these. Basically, they're like shills for the moderate wing of the Democratic Party and also, embezzlers who are using the money donated by working people, by hardworking people who want justice in this country to enrich themselves. And so, allegedly. And so, it's important to understand that because the confusion is not an accident. Some of these far right-wing papers, they do that on purpose. They know it's confusing, but it's not really confusing. Black Lives Matter Grassroots, 33 chapters, the people that are actually doing the work. All you have to do is compare the two social media. One is everywhere with families who have been impacted, trying to help people, protesting, petitioning, putting forth the people's budget. The other one is saying, ask Joe Biden to forgive our student loans. Today is National Black People Day. And just a lot of, really innocuous stuff that you would never normally hear from the real Black Lives Matter. That's one of the ways that you can tell the difference. The other is just tracking it and paying attention to what's going on. And of course, the third way is when you read something, consider the source. If it's coming from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, the Daily Standard, Fox News, and it has anything to do with Black Lives Matter or organizations that deal with ending anti-blackness, they are going to be trying to undermine because that is their political perspective. We always have to consider the source. That's what media literacy is all about. It's a perfect time to call me, 800-920-1580. You are listening to KBLA Talk 1580, 40 acres and a mic.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
What's up? I'm Danelle Riley, FAMU alumni and creator of the HBCU Culture Shop. I am so proud of my new partnership with Black Beyond Measure and Target. They help me elevate community pride with my HBCU designs and continue to support Black creators and entrepreneurs with Target HBCU challenges, scholarship programs, and campus collaborations. Let's come together this homecoming season and beyond. Shop my brand and discover other Black-owned products at target.com/BlackBeyondMeasure.
We all agree that America has a very serious problem.
Okay, KBLA Delegation, we need your help as we launch our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We would deeply appreciate you going to our KBLA 1580 website and filling out a short climate justice survey, which will help us better serve our beloved community as we build out this campaign. It'll take you just a few short minutes to complete the online survey, and the information you provide us will be invaluable as we do our part to hold folk accountable and amplify the voices of our people in this climate conversation. When you take the survey, you'll be automatically entered to win seats at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. So, hit our website at KBLA 1580. Help us out by taking the short climate justice campaign survey, and you could be our guest at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. Thank you in advance for your consideration and cooperation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate. We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back indeed. And speaking of considering the source, last time we had an election, Twitter was owned by, not Elon Musk, right? So this election is going to be different. Remember in 2020, whenever Trump or anyone would say something about election rigging or whatever, they would have Twitter would attach a little notification to that tweet with the real facts, right? When for example, the example the New York Times makes, when Trump said that the mail-in ballots are automatically rigged, which we know is BS, then there would be something attached to that tweet. The difference now is instead of debunking these various conspiracy theories, Elon Musk will retweet them and amplify them. And so I think this is going to be a season, it's already starting, when we have to be even more media literate. Elon Musk actually recently amplified a tweet that said, mail-in voting is automatically rigged. So there's no more fact checks. There's no more flagging. Now it's anything goes. And so if we thought disinformation and misinformation were problems in the 2024 election, it's about to be on steroids. And that means we have to be smarter about knowing where something comes from, why somebody's saying it, who it serves, and follow the money. Let's go to Tom calling us from Irvine. Good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Yes, I'd like to point out that these right-wing evangelicals and Catholics support the very method of punishment, i.e. the death penalty, that killed their Savior, Jesus Christ.
Wow, that was kind of a deep sentence right there.
So I suppose if they were all living in Jesus' day, that they would have supported his death.
Well, maybe, I mean, that may be a stretch, because they're going to say that, they're talking about career criminals and convicted felons, whatever. Why, I'm just being people's advocate here. Maybe not. Me personally, I think the death penalty is barbaric. It puts the United States in very bad company with few other so-called advanced nations that allow states to execute their citizens. I think it should have been abolished. That said, I don't know if that's a fair characterization of Christians, Tom.
Well, I don't know that they call themselves Christians. I don't know that they truly are.
So what's your solution here? I mean, you just called to point out that the, hypocrisy? Yeah.
Yes. I would think that if your Savior was killed by the death penalty, then you would, in order to prevent that sort of thing from happening again, you would want to you'd want to abolish the method by which he was killed.
I mean, I feel like I've told this story for people that have been listening a long time, but I feel like, when my sister was murdered, that her mom, Amina, and my dad chose not to seek the death penalty, even though, all of us knew that if we met the guy in a dark alley, it might be a different outcome. Because if you don't support state-sanctioned executions, you can't support it in certain cases and not in others. I was really proud of my mom, my stepmom, and my dad for staying true to their principles at the ultimate moment of duress, which is the murder of my sister, their child.
That's my point. That they stayed true to their principles. Why can't I guess because they don't have any. But why wouldn't right-wing evangelicals?
Yeah, you just answered your own question. I mean, it's the same question of why you don't want women to have the right to terminate a pregnancy or have agency over their own bodies. And you say you're pro-life, but you won't support feeding the kids who are here through the child tax credit, which expired and sent 4 million American children immediately back into hunger and poverty just a little over a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. I've got nothing more to say to that.
All right, Tom, appreciate you. That's the party of hypocrisy. That's what that is. And I don't know if, I think for most of them, I think it's just cynical. I'm going to say what I got to say to get where I got to get. Otherwise, a lot of those people wouldn't even be voting for Donald Trump because he embodies a lot of the type of corruption and sin and immorality that they say they stand against. Going to Q from L.A. Good morning, Q. Q, you with me?
Yes, I'm with you, my dear sister. Grand Rising. Just a quick commentary about the decision that took place at the ICJ, at the UN, the condemnation of Israel and with complacency of U.S. in generating this genocide against the Palestinians. Now, another question to you is this. I know most of the decisions that are made by the UN are mostly ignored by Israel, of course, and the U.S. always support them. So in this case, what would be the right course to implement or to stop this genocide or this apartheid system that is taking place against people? Now, why do we, of course, U.S., we consider ourselves to be a Christian country, but yet so we keep on supporting atrocities against human beings? How are we going to justify our Christianity?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it is a problem. The thing about it is now Israel is talking about it, how that in order to completely wipe out Hamas, they have to push right up to the border and into a so-called demilitarized zone between Egypt and Gaza. And Egypt is saying that if you do that, you got a problem with us, Egypt, which is another very scary escalation here. But Israel, I imagine they'll go ahead and do it because they're going to say they have to do that to fully root out Hamas. Egypt doesn't want it to happen because all those Palestinians that were already told to flee there by Israel for safety are going to probably rush into Egypt. So Egypt is saying, move those folks back north before you do this. But it seems like Netanyahu's not listening to anyone. And for me, we as the U.S. should use a little bit more of our leverage. We give you all this money and you don't even want to consider our opinion. I don't, if I'm paying your rent, then I have some say so in your life.
Yeah, but they're not willing to. Recently, as recent as last week, of course, U.S. has been talking about two-state solution. Netanyahu bluntly said, no, we're not.
Yeah. Yep.
You see, we have emboldened them to the point that, because they control this country, anyway, the Zionists, they control the country. So they got to the point right now that they don't care.
Well, people who hear you say that are going to say that you're being anti-Semitic to say Zionists control the country.
No,
I know you didn't say Jewish people, but still, I mean, who controls the country? It seems to be, an oligarchy to me.
Yeah, but I'm a black man. I can never be anti-Semitic. Because the real Semitic people are black people, so I can never be anti-Semitic.
I mean, I've heard that argument, but Clarence Thomas is anti-black, so I don't know if that's a solid argument, Q.
Clarence Thomas is Nobody knows where it's coming from. His mind is warped. Yeah, but something has to be done.
Yeah.
We should stop supporting this regime that is doing nothing but destroying human beings.
All right, Q, we're going to have to leave it
done.
there. It's time for the best of Tavis Smiley. But call me again next week. I'm here every single day, and I'm happy to talk with you. Tavis Smiley's highlights from the week are straight ahead. If you want to talk to me, hit me up on social media, KBLA 1580 on every platform, or DiPrima Radio. If you want to talk to me personally, it's DIPRIMA and then radio. Please like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. I'm quoting Kwame Nkrumah today. One of my favorite quotes. He says, "Forward ever, backward never." I'm Dominique DiPrima. History is now, and we are making it together. Until Monday, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The FAA says Boeing can once again fly its 737 MAX 9 planes. The statement comes after the agency completed its Boeing safety review following the in-flight blowout of a door plug on an Alaska Airlines flight earlier this month. The FAA accompanied that ruling with a warning saying the incident must never happen again. A trial date has been set for a lawsuit filed by the family of Tyree Nichols against the city of Memphis, Tennessee. Robon Wells, Nichols' mother, filed a